Hello and welcome to another episode of Living with a Mazda MX-5. Welcome to episode 8. As you've probably seen by now, I am joined by the latest model, the Mk4, or if you're an MX-5 geek, that is for ND and that's the MB. Those are the model names. So as you probably guessed, I'm going to be comparing the two. So I've got my very own Mk2 right here, and of course I've got the Mk4. So let's jump in both cars to see how they compare. Right, so I'm in the brand new MX-5. This is the Sport Nav model, so obviously it's a sportier setup. This has got the 1.5 litre petrol engine, which has 129 brake horsepower. 0 to 62 comes in 8.3 seconds, and the top speed is 127. So let's start the engine up, shall we? Oh, hello, that's a bit fruity. I wasn't quite expecting that. Hang on, what am I doing? The sun's out. It's got to be roof down, of course. There we are, one clip. Oh, there we are. My MX-5 on the other hand has 2 clips, so that is easier. Ah, there we are. Right, let's put the windows back up so it's not too windy for you all. And away on the road we go. You may think it's odd that I'm going in the new model first and not my own. The reason for this is because someone will be waiting for this car, whereas there's going to be no one waiting for my car. Therefore, sorry about that. Therefore, it makes sense for me to go out in this car first. So I do appreciate it is a bit back to front. Now, of course, this is a comparison video, but if you'd like to learn more about the new MX-5, I did do a separate first drive video, so be sure to check that out as well. So, initial thoughts. Well, for gear change, it still feels spot on. It feels a little bit lighter than my MX-5 and it requires less effort, which will be fantastic for some drivers, but for me, I would want it to feel a little bit more mechanical, but you know what? It's still as sweet as a nut. It's still a really good gear change. The brakes are sharper. The brakes in my Mk2 MX-5 aren't very good at all, but no such issues in the Mk4. The brake pedal itself is quite nice and firm. It's got a nice response to it. I do rather like that. The clutch pedal does feel noticeably lighter than my Mk2, which again will make it easier to drive, but I quite like a heavy clutch. I quite like to feel like I'm having to put some effort in regards to driving the car. Another difference between the Mk4 and my very modest Mk2 is the gearbox. Now, this has got 6 speeds, whereas my Mk2 has got 5 speeds. But that's fine by me, because it means I've got more gears to play with, which can only be a good thing. You know what? I'm going to change down for no reason. There we are. Oh, national speed limit. I think I'm going to change down again. Oh, yes. And I'll tell you what, bearing in mind it's just got the less powerful engine, because the car is so light, it weighs 1,050 kilograms, it will still get a move on. If you want more power, then of course go for the more powerful 2 litre engine. I'll tell you what, this car really does feel nimble. I know it sounds like a really silly thing to say, but does it feel more nimble than my Mk2? Yes, it does. Now, this car's got 50-50 weight distribution. So the Mazda engineers have been hard at work to make this MX-5 just so. In regards to the seating position, you know what? I haven't altered anything whilst I've been in this car, and I feel comfortable. This is a good driving position. Okay, maybe if I wanted to be pedantic, I would want to be sat a little bit closer, and of course I can do so if required. In fact, let's do that. That engine makes a good noise, by the way. Right, let's just bring that to a little bit. Right, how do I do that? There we are. Unlike my Mk2, I can actually adjust the steering wheel, but that's fine for me as it was. In regards to the steering does feel lighter, definitely. It definitely feels lighter, which is a bit of a pity. No, I don't want to go that way. That's going towards the motorway by the looks of it. Yeah, the steering definitely feels lighter. If I'm going to be pedantic, I think I would want it to be a bit heavier. I don't know what else to say at this point other than this car is fantastic, but let's be honest, what else was I expecting? Right, so into my humble Mk2. Start the engine. Hasn't got the same fruity tone as the 1.5 litre of a Mk4. Right, let's get this roof down. 2 clips as opposed to 1 on the new model. There we are, and pop the wind deflector up. So, first difference is steering definitely feels heavier. There's a bit more resistance for when I turn it. The clutch definitely feels heavier. Yes, the clutch is considerably heavier. The brakes aren't as good, but I mentioned that earlier. In regards to the power delivery, now performance-wise, the 1.8 in this and the 1.5 in the Mk4, they're pretty similar. I think this is a little bit faster to 62 miles per hour, but not by much. It's also got a faster top speed as well. My car does have more torque, and as a result, I can definitely feel the extra pulling power. Okay, it's not much, but to me, it's noticeable. This car has got a 5-speed, whereas the Mk4 has a 6-speed. I do prefer the change on this. It's firmer and you need a bit more weight behind your change. Feels more mechanical. I do like that. And if I'm going to be honest with you, if I'm going to be brutally honest, I think this feels a little bit more precise, and that may shock some of you, but those are, you know, those are my opinions. Yeah, the brakes are definitely pretty crap compared to the Mk4. I would say that the Mk4 was a little bit more keen to brake traction. The Mk4 definitely feels more direct in its steering, and the car itself feels nimbler as well. Yeah, this definitely feels a bit heavier, not by much. We're talking a few kilograms here and there, but it does definitely feel like a heavier car. But it still doesn't feel as heavy as 124 Spider, which is quite wallowy in the corners, which is a pity really. But if you want a more driver focused car, get the MX-5. If you want a cruiser, get the 124 Spider. But what about looks? Well, I like the looks of both cars, and they have different approaches in regards to their styling. So it's really difficult for me to say which I prefer. I like this because it's, you know, it's a bit more timeless. But I also prefer Mk4 because it's aggressive and it's in your face, and I quite like that. So for me, looks wise, it's a dead heat. Performance wise, again, it's difficult, but my car is a bit more powerful, so the Mk2 wins that battle. But if I were putting this against a 2 litre Mk4, then this would of course lose. The steering is better in the Mk4, the brakes are better in the Mk4. So at this moment in time, I'm sure you'll agree that everything is pointing. I'm sure you'll agree at this point that everything is pointing towards the Mk4. Comfort, the Mk4 wins that battle as well. This isn't uncomfortable, but when you do hit some bends, the car rattles a bit and its age starts to show, and it doesn't soak up the bumps quite as well as its younger brother. Equipment, okay, well, it's not even worth discussing the equipment because I've got a Pioneer aftermarket stereo, air conditioning, lights, wipers, and that's about it. Whereas in the Mk4, you've got DAB radio, you've got climate control, you've got Bluetooth, you've got all your mod cons, whereas this, because it's 17 years old, is rather basic. But what about handling? Well, there's not much in it, but I would go with a Mk4. It just feels more nimble and it just feels a bit more driver focused. This definitely feels a bit heavier, although let's face it, it's not a heifer lump. They both grip well, and in fact, on these roads, I have found my Mk2 to be grippier. Mind you, my car has a limited slip diff, whereas the 1.5 litre Mk4 doesn't. As a driving sensation, you can't really knock either car, and both of those cars would be a great pick if you're looking for something to drive along this kind of road on this kind of day. You can't really go wrong, you really can't. But if it was me and it's money no object, I hate to say this, but I think I'd take the Mark 4. I'm really sorry, Mark 2. You have been a very loyal servant to me, but for Mark 4, it's progress. It's simply better. And although I can't afford to have a Mark 4, Mark 2 does me nicely, although, as many of you may know, this will soon be up for sale, which is very, very sad. If anything, driving the Mark 4 today has only made me love MX-5s even more. So yes, it will be a sad day when this car goes. And on that rather sad note, I think it's time to end this video. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. If you did, give it a big thumbs up and please subscribe for more car obsession.